Sagi calculated that he was captive for 43 million seconds,
Wow.
and he felt every one of them, that this could be his last. From two sources, the obvious, from the terrorists, his captors. And we know that there's evidence of that. Hirsch, Goldberg, Poland, and the other 5 young people were executed. And there are other examples of this as well by their captors for whatever reasons. But what also must be emphasized is that he had, and I'm sure many other hostages as well, near-death experiences as a result of friendly fire, as a result of aerial bombings or perhaps artillery shells from the IDF. As hard as I know they try to avoid anywhere in Gaza that hostages may be held, things happen. And on multiple occasions, he was able to tell us that he was very close to death because of friendly fire. And which, of course, emphasizes the need to get the hostages out in some sort of negotiated way. Continuing warfare, the very warfare itself, puts them at risk from direct fire and from the threat of Israeli encroachment on the places where the hostages are being held, which would lead and has led to hostages being executed.
And then you see him walk out of that car, and tell us a little bit about that moment.
It's an absolute. There aren't words, really. I mean, I know some languages. I don't have the vocabulary to describe, really. I'm a man of words to describe that feeling. It's like having a 36-year-old son be born again. He's emerging from this white man, but emerging from the valley of death, quite literally. So, joy, it's such a thin word to describe that. And we're still experiencing it now in, every moment that we have with him. And to see his daughter's faces, especially the 2 older ones who miss their dad terribly. The little one, she's a year and 3 months old. What does she know? And we knew, well, even then, I mean, we saw him from a distance, of course, through cameras. So it was difficult to know sort of what his condition was. And there was no sound as well. And so it was difficult to know. It was horrific watching that ceremony. Incredibly painful to watch that. And what these 3 guys and all of the others were put through after a year and a half in hell. And you just sit there helplessly. And it's agonizing for them. The agony is for them that they would be put through this. To say nothing of what Gadi Moses and Arbel Yehud were put through. They're also from our kibbutz. Gadi's been my friend for 45 years.
Wow.
I've watched Arbel grow since she was born. I just didn't know what to expect. My 2 parents, well, my dad was a Holocaust survivor. My mom was a Holocaust refugee from Nazi Germany. And my dad survived somehow 6 years of Nazi occupation, ghettoization, slave labor, and death march. And so by the time he was freed in late April of 1945, he looked very much like the hostages who had been released the 2 weeks before Sagi. And quite honestly, my mind was full of all sorts of scenarios. What if Sagi also came out looking like those men?